Alrighty, hello every folks, and good morning. Welcome to a First Impressions here for the release of Aethermancer. So first of all, thank you to Morai Games as well as Off-Brand for going and providing a preview code for this. I don't know technically who okays the preview codes, but either way, thank y'all for making this game happen. Because yeah, this is a concept that I was really kind of hoping would come to life in the back of my head for years. Namely, what would happen if somebody took a Pokemon Nuzlocke run and just made it into a roguelike? It's something that's just sort of right there, is like somebody's got to do this, right? For a good long while there. I mean, these kinds of challenge runs have been popular for a very long time, and yeah, apparently it took till now to see that concept realized in a very, very nice and cozy manner here. So let's go ahead and get into what this plays like, because yeah, I absolutely love this thing. I can't explain in the background for some of the context of explaining that thing, but let's just say that this has definitely been up there as far as some of the stuff that I've been looking forward to, especially this month. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into this here, shall we? So essentially, here is your hub. Every one of your runs essentially both begins and ends in this particular town. And as you end up going through different runs, you end up finding different NPCs who end up going and building their homes, opening up shops, opening up different locations and what have you, potentially opening up different mechanics. Some of these folks just kind of hang out here, but they might potentially send you care packages in the middle of your run. Some of them, like for example this guy, are going to be there by default, and so he ends up running a shop that gives you a few different upgrades and stuff as you end up carrying along. Now, as you go through, you unlock various different mechanics for your different runs, and that's really where, if you, for example, took a look at the listing and saw, hey, it's technically a rogue light, that would be the sort of light element. You do get a few different upgrades and things over time, but I will say this is one that definitely feels like a roguelike with new features unlocking all the time more than anything. As far as how these upgrades end up impacting your future runs, the closest that comes to mind to me as far as how it feels would be like when you're going and doing repeat runs of something like Binding of Isaac, okay, where you end up just unlocking new features, and yeah, technically you get some stuff that's potentially stronger, but it really doesn't feel like it's going and wiping away the difficulty or whatever else. So like in this particular case, I just completed a playthrough for the first time, and so it ended up unlocking a higher difficulty, and there was room in there to potentially unlock another one as well. So as far as the feel goes, it's something like that. It's the middle ground between a Nuzlocke run and something like Binding of Isaac there, with a good bit of snappiness to all of it as you carry along. Now, the interesting thing about this is as you end up unlocking new monsters over time, essentially the way that you get new creatures added to your roster is you stagger them in the middle of a fight, and then you make a memento out of them. Like, you'll notice that they have the little necklace hangers popping up over the icon in the background. That's because you're making essentially little voodoo dolls of all of these guys, and they are permanently tied to you. Every time that you're going and bringing one of these creatures back, you're literally bringing back the same one. They're just essentially coming back mind-wiped, more or less. As they respect you over time, you get more of what's known as worthiness, which ends up improving things over time. Like, for example, Saint Ivolus over here, the Grimoire that I like. This is definitely my favorite dude, so we're gonna probably start with him. But yeah, in his particular case, it's already up to 4, where some of these other ones weren't necessarily used as much, and some of them I haven't even properly named. Yeah, we got Pulverizer over here. We got Carl, the guy that looks like a toxic llama. We got Two Dog. We got my airplane, because to me it looks like he's holding a little airplane in his hands. We got Ozma the Hellhound over here. We got a Wet Gremlin. I never named this guy yet, but there's this one song called And Then I Realized That She Was a Gargoyle. I always wanted to name it She, but I just haven't used a gargoyle yet. Just recently got a hold of the Sphinx. And every one of these creatures, by the way, has different mechanics available to it. So, for example, like the Sphinx is, honestly, the closest thing I can think of is the NGB ship from FTL, being a situation where they essentially spawn in ads, they have support actions that potentially very specific builds can take a hold of. So like over here, whereas most characters would have the ability to do a basic attack and to generate additional points which then can be used on additional skills, this guy's thing is a basic heal which also comes with the ability to generate what's known as wild aether, which basically can be used for anything, which may potentially work really well with something like this guy, a Star Spawn, who has a really, really good move in the form of the Star Beam, essentially like staggering and heavily damaging everything that's there, but using a type of points that are generally pretty difficult to get a hold of. So those two potentially might be able to tag off of each other particularly well. Like when I got my first win there, it was a combination of this guy burning the hell out of stuff, as well as an item that allowed him to potentially stack additional poison on things. It was this guy, which has the ability to essentially take a free, expensive action, but in order to unlock it, there has to be a specific type of points that are spent throughout the entire team. We'll get into more on that in just a moment. Which then combined in with this guy, who has the ability to poison things, as well as an item that allowed him to burn things, meaning that I had two characters that were tagging off of each other, consistently stacking burn and poison, which doesn't have an upper limit as far as I can tell, over and over and over, while another guy just absolutely oppresses and supports everybody, using his main action to heal the party, but then using his free action to just rain hell on entire enemy teams. These kinds of fun synergies where you just realize that you can just cheese the hell out of every fight, but the game expects you to cheese every fight, like that feels fantastic. And you can run through this with just completely random creatures and just find new synergies all the dang time, which is part of what makes it so fun to rerun and rerun and rerun. So we're going to go ahead and start over here. And a few mechanics to mention right away. You'll notice that he has that little 0 with a melted heart right next to him. Essentially, that is corruption. So, whereas enemy monsters have to deal with the stagger mechanic, you have to deal with the corruption mechanic. Your creatures can't be staggered, but they sure as hell can be corrupted. And as they take damage, as well as when they take certain types of attacks, they will end up getting more and more damage over time. Next mechanic or rather I should probably mention, they lose maximum health as time goes on. So you actually start off fights already injured, and then have to heal back up to full if you're trying to play it safe. Now, this can potentially have very detrimental effects if you completely don't pay attention to it, to the point where your team is risking getting instantly wiped the second that they run into a fight. Anyways, we're going to go ahead and get my Vorpertinger, aka a Dew over here. Going to add him to the team. So at the start of every zone that you run into, you can add a party member. If you lost a party member, if you, let's say, had somebody that was so corrupted that you just didn't want to even have them on the team anymore, you have somebody start up, and they will actually end up joining with a significant amount of experience, allowing them to catch up with the rest of the party. So you don't have to worry about grinding. Essentially, all you have to worry about is what will potentially work for your team. Like, especially if, let's say, a creature is particularly not working for you with that particular run, you can just replace them with somebody that is potentially equally experienced. Anyway, so we got two items from this guy. So we got a tome. So on a single target attack applies weakness, 50% chance to generate another stack of weakness, basic attacks generate one additional earth, and 33% chance to generate yet another one on top of that. Then we've got the skull over here, which whenever this monster applies a debuff to an enemy, 20% chance to apply another stack of the same debuff. And then basic attacks generate one additional fire ether. I'm thinking this earth one's probably going to be a bit more useful. And we'll go ahead and apply that to this one. So as you pick up equipment, you don't add it to your inventory. You essentially have somebody carry that equipment, or you scrap it right away. Essentially, you're constantly on the run. You have no time to be hauling around a wagon full of random nonsense, so everything's either used right away or scrapped, which definitely gives this game a good step towards being a constant flow state here. Because you don't have to worry about inventory management or whatever else. The here and now is all that matters, and that feels great. Anyways, in this particular case, so we've got a lantern over here, so we could either use the soul in this to give somebody additional health, or take a soul for later. So we're just going to go ahead and grab one for later. Because you'll notice, despite having many creatures available in the roster, when we took a look, there were only 3 available to actually spawn in. Now, this doesn't mean that that there's only 3 in total. It's just that we only had 3 souls available, and so those were the ones that ended up popping up. We ended up using one of them to essentially spawn in our Dew over there, and so as a result, we went up and down to 2. Now we're back up to 3. As you end up getting more souls, this gives you more kind of randomized choices to go through as you go through your roster. Now, right now, we're targeting this guy for an ambush. Depending on your interactions with different creatures, if you, let's say, just run into them, you just have a normal fight. If you ambush them from the side, you'll get rid of 2 of their stagger points, and then if you attack them from the high ground, you'll end up getting rid of 3. And so, for some creatures, like this guy, that is very easy to stagger, we'll be able to actually start the fight with him immediately losing his turn and not having any option to do anything. And if we didn't have him, we could actually go and capture a copy of him to have on the team for later. Now, you don't have to recapture monsters. Essentially, the first time that you run into them, you capture a memento of them, and they are always going to be in your team from that moment onwards. You essentially go back to the hub, you establish a soul bind there, and they will always be available to you. If you don't soul bind them, from what I understand, they're just a lot less likely to show up. I'm not exactly sure for sure how all of that works, but either way. So we're going to go ahead and attack this guy here, get rid of some of their points, and you'll notice a few different things going on here at once. For one thing, since this guy's already staggered, he's not actually getting an action. This lasts 1 turn, but this also allows for potentially doing a bit more damage to that particular creature, and once they end up coming back, they do what's known as a reset attack. So in this case, he's going to go and poison the entire team. So again, if you don't take advantage of that window, you are basically just hurting yourself. And in that case, he's going to go ahead and burn the party. So now our party is both poisoned and burned, and we want to start trying to wrap this up as quick as possible. Now, Mr. Adu over here, his thing is to copy moves. So if you're familiar with Pokemon, this guy is a combination of Mimic as well as Metronome, coming from the book up there. These two are my favorite for such an oddly specific reason. But yeah, like, when you use all of the requisite points to unleash your book here, you essentially get a combination of, or a list of 3 different moves that you can now do completely for free. So no additional points, no additional anything. They don't have to know the move. They can just go and use it. And that is a really fun interaction to me. Like, these two with their randomized moveset, I love that so dang much. But as you go through, essentially different interactions have the potential to give you different types of experience. We're just going to go ahead, reduces health by 6, but it gives them additional ether. But yeah, as you go through, you discover all these different interactions. You end up getting some really oddly specific favorites built up, but the utter chaos of a lot of these fights is a whole lot of fun, and up to and including the fact that it's actually pretty. It is both surprisingly easy and surprisingly difficult to play it safe in this game, okay? Because you can, for example, build up a team that's just like constant overshields, constant debuff removal, constant health regeneration, constant heals, and then you still find yourself under pressure because the moment that one part of your machine is disabled, suddenly you're in this position where like now all of a sudden you don't have the means to keep your regeneration going, so do you have enough offense to keep everybody else at bay? Just constantly managing the offense and defense situation, your resources, burning enemy resources and stuff like that. It's so much fun. It's like way more fun than you think it would be, because we see a lot of the typical fun stuff that you'd see from, let's say, a lot of card games that are out there. But due to the fact that all of this stuff is obviously in video form here, you're essentially gonna have a lot more things going on at once that would be way too much of a headache in a normal scenario. So you potentially can have like when you're towards the tail end of the game, you can start seeing situations where you've got like 30 different effects going off in a single attack. So yeah, stuff's great. Anyway, like in this particular instance, we have the option to both stagger this guy as well as burn some of their points. They only have a few points available. Like, they only have 1 water, they only have one air at this point. So whichever one ends up getting attacked, this particular attack of his will end up swiping one of them. So we'll go ahead and stagger this guy, we'll steal that point away from him, and now even if he could attack, he still would be down to a basic attack anyway. From there, though, we're just going to go ahead and set up for a tag team for later by having him go do his bubble trick over here, kick this guy in some very unfortunate places, give him some weakness stacks to make him a bit weaker, and then he'll do a follow-up attack on the next turn that we do something. So we'll use this Scald over here. We'll go ahead and burninate this guy. Give him a little bit of burn stacks, get some points built up. He'll do a sidekick attack here, apply some weakness, and then we should be able to go do something against this guy. So we got a crit, thankfully. That's going to be enough to take him out. And then that guy's going to try and shield himself. He's going to try to shield himself even harder, but the poison and all the burn and everything else will end up building up. So we'll go ahead and do this. Right over here. Get that guy staggered. Get even more stacks going on this guy. He should be pretty much no threat at this point, but either way, just do the wind trick, get him out of there. And as you, again, build up more pieces to your team, as you end up improving them over time, you just see more and more of this coming into play. Now, this worthiness system, as I mentioned before, does make them a little bit stronger as time goes on, but as you can see, I guess there really isn't too much to compare it to, but this isn't making it so that they're just instantly steamrolling the game with, 20 billion new levels or whatever else. It just gives them more stuff to potentially play with on new playthroughs. Alright, so we get some new traits as we get through here. So whenever this monster purges or steals ether, breaks one poise of the same element on all enemies. Yes, please. I'm not even reading the rest. That is great. Or with this guy, we got cruelty, so +3 crit at the start of combat, and whenever an enemy is staggered, applies 1 force to self. So improved crit damage, as well as one type of momentum attack there. Or on interruption, deals 6 fire and wind damage to that enemy, or exploit on interrupt, applies sidekick to self. I think we'll do that, just because Sidekick is pretty useful, and he's got a lot of things in his pool that allow him to make Sidekicks better. So Sidekick is basically a follow-up attack, just a follow-up basic attack whenever anybody else does something. In its base form, it's just kind of okay, but then as you end up applying new things to it, like for example, he can make them a guaranteed critical, he can make them attack with multiple elements at once, can potentially have them kind of ping-pong between different units and what have you. It gets pretty darn good in his case. Let's see, converts one random ether into wild ether. I think we'll just go ahead and replace this guy's orb with that, get a little bit of money from converting that item, and then we'll move on to the next zone. And this is just basically how it goes every time. So we'll just go for a random NPC here, see if we end up getting the cook, seeing as we get a little bit of corruption going on these guys. Actually, no, we don't. What am I talking about? I'm being dumb is what I'm talking about. Alright, whatever. Let's get some new dudes in here. Do we want one vision or do we want the pulverizer? I think we want our one vision, our fire chicken. Get our fried chicken in here. Alright. Let's get like the full favorites team going on here. Okay. And I love the little kind of interactions as you travel along here. Just kind of seeing little lanterns light up to let you know where you've been. The fun way is just the world changes as you go through. The fact that so many containers are opened just by kind of going and blitzing through them and what have you. It's great, Alright, anyway, let's see here. So we potentially can go and burninate this chicken just to get them out of the fight for now, because that's the one that we ambushed. We got 2 points already built up there. No real use for the wind action here, but you can go ahead and shield yourself. Go. Apparently a very cute roar, as it were. And then you can go ahead and probably do a basic attack on this chicken to build up more points for yourself. There we go. Now, it's basically any kind of cheese that you can think of will give you some variety of sort of interesting interactions here. Like, if you wanted to build a team that was entirely on just burning the enemy team to the point that they have no resources to use any skills whatsoever, you can do that. If you wanted to do a full defensive team, yeah, you can do that. If you wanted to do just, like, nothing but debuff stacks, the last win that I got on this thing, I believe I mentioned this earlier, was basically a situation in which I had 80 stacks of various different debuffs on the guy by the end, to the point that they could barely function. So either way, this you can keep getting pretty nutty with all these different combinations, and you have not only the personal traits of those units, you have the randomized stuff that you came along with. You have situations where you can actually give them different innate abilities as time goes on. The items that you find along the way are different. So while there are a lot of things that can potentially break the game in a lot of different ways, you absolutely have no clue what you're going to run into along the way, So it can play out so many different ways that it's hard to predict. Again, just kind of what troubles you may potentially see, and that feels awesome. Like, let's say one of those things that mattered quite a bit was using a combination of this guy as well as an item that I picked up, because your Aethermancer guy, he can actually use various different items for free during your turns. Like, let's say we wanted to heal, you can just go and use this flask. That flask will refill every time that we get to a checkpoint. But there's a lot of different items that you can have as well, like let's say a whip that steals ether from the enemy team and gives you one of your own, or a staff that allows you to fully reset the turn of one unit. And so let's say the book is very good at charging itself, but also gets its free attack ability. You potentially can use that staff to use both at the same time. It's very limited how many times you'd be able to pull that off, but once you do, you know, stuff gets pretty nutty. Let's go ahead and apparently harvest the guy like wildflowers over there. Also go ahead and just use one of these swipes over here. And yeah, this team is looking a little bit worse for wear. We want to end this fight because of how much they ended up stacking up here. There we go. Probably a bit of a waste to burn that firestorm there when we could have saved it for later, but oh well. But yeah, every one of these creatures will have different mechanics to them. You know, this chicken essentially gets more powerful the more on fire he is. As I mentioned before, the book has additional abilities depending on how many ether have been used in that particular fight. You've got, let's say, the one that I haven't shown here, the Star Spawn, who's a guy that will generate additional ether depending on a random element that he just happens to like that turn. He's basically this game's Mewtwo, more or less. Being this, like, weird... Actually, I guess Deoxys would be the closer thing, but he sure feels like this game's Mewtwo. But yeah, no, it's a case where they end up generating more stuff that others can't necessarily use, but his main kind of big laser ability is something that can't actually be used unless you happen to generate a bunch of wild ether, which is not necessarily easy to do. So let's say another one like that Sphinx I mentioned earlier, who's basically like an FTL ship, his ability to use a basic heal and generate one of that at the same time potentially could be a very fun combination there. Essentially giving them the ability to potentially maybe get that laser ability off early, or maybe you find items that will convert the first ether of every action into one of those, and hell, that might be exactly what you need. So yeah, there's a lot of different ways for that to play out. I'm trying to see if I can get up to that cliff to see if I can get a better ambush on these guys, because those dragons are green, which means that they're the shifted variant, aka the shiny version. Here, if I can get up there, there we go. And now, get close to this cliff, give me that stagger. There we go. Now we should be able to go and capture one of those, as they come in with their big shiny glow, which I appreciate that they added that. I don't believe that was there in earlier versions, because I don't remember that, don't remember seeing that there, so perfect timing for that. Anyway, let's go ahead and pop a quick scald on this guy, get him staggered, get him captured, and then we can see what that looks like. So how are you different from the usual little My Airplane Dragon? We got fire and wind. Looks like roughly the same loadout. I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on, obviously. Mechanically speaking, there's a million different things going on at once, which is a hell of a lot of fun. But also potentially hard to comment on during a first impressions video. So either way, that is my first impressions on this thing. There's a lot going on. There's enough content, despite this being a sort of early access thing. So it comes in at $21. I would say that there's enough here at this point to give it a good bit of replayability. Like, I would honestly rate this replayability-wise. I would say it's around the point where like FTL was when it first released, where you got a pretty good bit of interaction going on at all times. You can tell that there's still potential to see more down the road, but there is enough there to keep you interested and keep you going and playing through additional runs. So yeah, I would say there's definitely still plenty to see and do in this one. There's a lot that I haven't unlocked yet. Like when I started the video, I was longingly staring at the corner where I know the Scarecrow will be if I can figure out where the hell to find teeth. I have no idea where that is. Like, I unlocked a merchant. I want to point out, okay, sorry, tangent on tangent on tangent. There was a cool looking Scarecrow that was just sort of hanging out there, okay, in that one corner of the map. And I was saying, hey, you know what, it would be real cool to see this become a monster or something. And the response was, dude, that's just a Scarecrow. Why do you care about it so much? And Anyways, for I noticed when the game released, it was no longer there. So I was like, oh shoot, did they actually do the thing? And it turns out that you actually can get it as a decoration, and potentially it does some stuff. And okay, that's neat. I'm curious what that stuff is, and so I started going and looking for it, and eventually found a cat, and then the cat ended up making a little shop over in the hub there, and they're like, I will do stuff, I'll improve this general location here, but you got to bring me teeth. I'm like, I just beat the game. I have not even seen teeth. Where be teeth? I don't know. No, they killed my book. How dare you? You bastards. We'll go get another book. Well, we won't get another book, but we will potentially get some other stuff. But I'm going to go ahead and firebolt this guy. I mentioned some moves have very particular mechanics. Like that particular one will burn through every stack that you have of fire and essentially just burn it all at once. So it consumes it all in order to absolutely annihilate something. But yeah, you're really trading it in the long term. It's kind of, I would say, in many ways, like a sort of like a overheat variant. Like if you're familiar with Pokemon and stuff like that, where you're just kind of sacrificing the long term for the short term, but potentially cheesable under the right circumstances. Like we had that fire ritual ability that I turned on earlier in the fight, and that was potentially one of the results there. Yeah, we've got ooh, reactivates target ally. Hell yeah. Do one of those. Let's see. Whenever burn triggers on an enemy, applies burn to the enemy with the lowest amount of burn. Yes, please. That was one of those ones that I was mentioning earlier about tagging all kinds of different abilities together. We got a salve. It's no different. Actually, no. Let's see. This one gives Wild Ether. This one, start of combat, shield suffer 5. If it was every round, sure. Just one, maybe not. Let's see. Equivalent exchange. Give gold, give crystals, because, yeah, crystals are... Yeah, essentially crystals allow you to get permanent upgrades, whereas gold does not quite do that. It allows you to get temporary upgrades, at least so far. I don't know. Maybe that changes. Maybe even by the time this releases, that might have changed. I don't know. But generally, that's the rule. Hey, they left a care package. So a care package out here, you open the care package and uncover a letter to Siriu, our savior. I don't know if it's Siriex or Siriu. I assume it's Siriu. We've gathered some supplies and gold to aid you on your journey. We hope this finds you well when you most need it. With sincere gratitude, Zunri, Ziffa, Slydog, Jack, and Leaf. You receive 5 gold by using the supplies managed to cleanse 3 corruption from your monsters. Nifty nifty. Would have been better for that one guy that is currently dead. But, whatever. That does get... rid of at least some corruption, and additionally, if you, for example, find yourself in a position that you need to go warp to another place, you can just sort of zip around the map to any places that you've been to before. It is a very zippy kind of game, which, again, just feels good. Like, the movement feels great, the interactions feel very quick and fun there. Again, it's very good about that particular thing. Also, I think this cat is another one that I have not picked up yet, and in fact, it actually might be the fancier version of the cat. Do I has mementos? I don't, dang it! Whatever. Anyway. Well, this will be able to reactivate somebody. Also, we're in a little bit of a rough spot right now for obvious reasons. Alright. Let's do a basic attack on this guy, see if we can reactivate. Alright. Do that. Do one of these. Alright. A little bit of weakness going on that guy. Hopefully get rid of one of them. Like, I know that guy's going to go and, for the most part, just do a bunch of support abilities for now. That'll end up changing over time. Probably the little mini dragon wormling kind of deal is probably the one to be focusing on, admittedly, but let's see. Applies regeneration, applies sidekick. Yeah, I don't necessarily need that right now. Yeah, we don't really have a lot of counters for this particular party at the moment. Yeah, very decidedly few counters on this team right now, because I was expecting to make it towards the level's end there and go bring in somebody else, but yeah, I think this particular run might be a little bit cooked, unfortunately. But that's okay. We can always forfeit the run. Yeah, I can tell you right now, that one's it's got the potential to go well, but I want to talk about the hub a little bit more. So yeah, So ultimately, whenever a run ends up ending, you end up warping back into your hub and doing this whole thing. So every one of your NPCs will give you different, different updates and upgrades and whatever else as you go on. Like, let's say we go down here, and I was talking about those soul binds from earlier. We can go up to this lady, and they'll give you a bit more background on how all of these soul mechanics work. Could she turn into an ooze? I mean, I'm hoping that's not how that works, but anywho. I wonder if that's meant to be a reference because there were like frogs in Monster Sanctuary. Anyway, but yeah, as you go on, this allows you to start your runs with these guys. So like they would normally be available any other time, but in order to specifically start a run with one of these, this is what you'd have to do. And yeah, there's 4 different starters as far as these special ones go. I believe they're a rare encounter in every one of the different zones. Like I've run into one of these guys before. I've run into one of these guys before. I have not seen the other 2 as of yet, so I don't know specifically what needs to happen there, but either way, we'll go ahead and pick up this nice spear and shield lady and go ahead and move on here. And yeah, that's the rough first impressions here. So, is it good? Yeah, I think it's pretty freaking great. I think that this is a really fun roguelike here. It seems to come in with a solid bit of content. Like genuinely, when I was going and talking with one of the folks involved with the project, like they're like, "Oh yeah, do you think that it's good as far as early access goes?" I'm like, "Wait a minute, this is early access." I genuinely forgot that was even a thing. So yeah, I think it's pretty darn great. I think it's a lot of fun. Definitely, like as far as roguelikes go, it's definitely up there for me. Like lately I've been going through an Into the Breach kick for a good decent bit there, and I would say in many ways the snappiness of it feels kind of similar to that. The way that your teams are built up, the way you're constantly just finding new ways to adapt to using items that are sometimes familiar, sometimes not, and then you occasionally run into those situations where you build your team completely wrong, only to get completely steamrolled once you get to a certain biome. I think it's a good bit of fun. So, anyways, that's about that. That's my first impressions on this whole thing. Let me know what you think, and yeah. For those looking at it, I believe the price was $21.99 if I'm not mistaken. But yeah, that's about that. So, y'all have yourselves a good one. Take care. Thank you, and see you later.